Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my first EDH deck tech video. This is one of my favourite EDH decks I own. I actually only own two at the moment, so I haven't really got much choice, but I've played with a fair few of my friends, Joe and Jamie and Josh, who is our little play group. And this deck is one that is incredibly deadly. It's probably the fastest deck we have out of our play circle, I would say, and also wins a fair few games as well. Our general is Ghave, Guru of Spores, so he's a 0/0 for 5 mana, 2 black, green and white. He's a legendary fungus shaman. He enters the battlefield with 5 counters on him, so if you're wondering about the 0/0, he's sort of like a Hydra. He enters with counters on him, and you can pay 1 to remove a 1/1 counter from a creature you control to put a 1/1 saproling onto the battlefield. Which seems innocuous, but when you look at the rest of this deck you'll understand why. And also for 1 mana you can sacrifice a creature and put a 1/1 counter on target creature. He manipulates +1/+1 counters like nobody's business. So let's go ahead and get down to looking at the all the different things in a deck are artifacts, creatures, enchantments, planeswalkers, sorceries and instants, and also our land as well, because in EDH, if you guys haven't played it before, the amount of silly land you can use to do crazy things is unreal. So there's a lot of good lands that also help me with my saplings and counters. So let's go ahead and first we will look at our creatures. So obviously, as I mentioned, we have Ghave, Guru of Spores, who's our commander. In EDH you cast the cost of the creature from outside the game. Your commander is outside the game, and every time you cast him, if he dies, you add 2 extra mana onto his casting cost. So after he's died once, he costs 7, and so on and so on. Another candidate for a commander in my deck, but just one that I have in the deck itself, is Carador Ghost Chieftain. He's a 3/4 for 8 mana, 5, 1 black, 1 green and a white. He costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your graveyard. And during each of your turns you may cast 1 creature card from your graveyard. Now the reason for this guy is to reassemble pieces of combo. So I have a lot of combo in this deck with saprolings, token generation and counter generation to make things bigger and to give me incredible amounts of creatures. A lot of those creatures will die obviously because they're threats. That's what happens in EDH. If you have a threat, someone kills it. And Carador Ghost Chieftain allows you to get those creatures back. Chorus of the Conclave is a 3/8 for 8 mana. It's a legendary creature, Dryad. It has Forest Walk, which means it can't be blocked by an opponent who controls a forest. And as an additional cost to cast any creature spell, you can pay an additional amount of mana, and if you do that, creature enters the battlefield with that many additional counters on it. So for example, if I cast a creature that usually costs 3 mana, if I pay 5, it comes in with 2 extra counters on it. If I cast it for 6, then it comes in with X counters on it equal to the amount I paid extra. So it's really good. If there's any cheap creatures, this thing makes them big very quickly. Vishkal, Blood Arbiter, is a 5/5 for 7 flying lifelink, which is decent anyway on its own for 7 mana. But he also has the extra abilities of sacrificing a creature, and you can put X 1/1 counters on Vishkal, where X is that sacrificed creature's power. Because of the amount of counter generation I have, I can make creatures powerful very, very quickly. So by sacrificing that creature and putting the counters onto Vishkal, I can then remove all the +1/+1 counters and give target creature -1/-1 until the end of turn for each +1/+ counter removed. So I mean, if I sacrifice a creature that's got 30 power, then he gets 30 counters on him. I then remove all those 30 counters and give a creature -30, -30. And I still have the 5/5 flying lifelink. So he's a really good way to get rid of very big creatures, and also obviously indestructible creatures, because it's -1/-1 counters and not damage. We have Hornet Queen, a 2/2 flying death touch for 7 mana. When Hornet Queen enters the battlefield, you put 4 1/1 green insect creature tokens with flying and death touch onto the battlefield. This just creates a hell of a lot of good blockers. It allows me to stall the game and stop people from attacking me, so I can then make more crazy creature-based armies. Treasury Thrall. This is the promo version from Gatecrash that I got for playing Orzhov. 4/4 for 6 mana with Extort. When it attacks, you return target artifact, creature, enchantment from your graveyard to hand. So again, this allows me just to throw it at a person, which makes them have to deal with the creature, and also allows me to reassemble pieces of the combo by getting artifacts, creatures, or enchantments back. Teneb the Harvester is a 6/6 fly for 6, and whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 3, 2 and 1 black, and if you do, put target creature from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. This allows me to steal other creatures from people's graveyards that I've killed, or someone else has killed, or someone has put there themselves, and also allows me to regurgitate my graveyard to, again, install my combos. There are no infinite combos in this deck, because we don't really allow infinite combos in our deck. I mean, Josh runs an artifact deck that has infinite combos, and we just look at him with disapproval every time he does it. This is Juniper Order Ranger, which is actually in Spanish, Guardabasso de la Orden del Enebro. 5 mana for a 2/4, and simply, basically, I mean, I know what this says down here, but obviously it's sempre que otra sinatra entre campo de balata bajo de tu control, etc, etc, Spanish stuff. I mean, I'm probably terrible on the pronunciation, but basically what happens is when a creature enters the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter onto it, and also onto this guy. So if I made a saproling with Ghave, that guy would get a counter, and so would the saproling. So the saproling would enter as a 2/2, and this guy would become a 3/5. He can get out of hand very quickly with Ghave. If I keep making a lot of saprolings and sacrificing them, making new saprolings, removing counters. So this guy is pretty awesome. And obviously with Ghave as well, I can then remove counters put onto this guy to make more saprolings, which then boost this guy up again. So the combinations are there for that, and this guy's really good. Skull Muncher is a 3/3 for 5. He has Devour 1, so as he comes into play, you can sacrifice any number of creatures. That creature comes into play with that many +1/+1 counters on it. So he basically eats a creature, and I draw a card for each creature that Skull Muncher devours. So if I have a lot of saprolings or a lot of creatures I don't need, Skull Muncher eats them up and I draw cards. It's a pretty decent way to fill up your hand. Microloth is one of the big creatures in this deck. He really helps me win games. A 4/4 for 5, Devour 2, so again, he eats 2 creatures. If you eat a creature, he gets 2 counters on him. And at the beginning of your upkeep, put a 1/1 sapling creature token into play for each counter on him. So basically, I load counters up onto this guy, and then protect him in some way, and every turn I get an incredible amount of saplings. So usually what happens is, I will devour, say, I will make, I don't know, 10 saplings with Ghave or something else. Microloth will then come into play, eat them, he'll get 20 1/1 counters on him, and then at the beginning of the next upkeep, 20 saplings will come onto the battlefield. I'll then keep doing that until I've got, say, 100 saplings, 120, whatever, how many I need. Then I'll kill Microloth myself, bring him back with either Carador, Treasury Thrill, something else, recover, and then at that point I will then devour every single sapling I control, protect him again, and then he'll spawn hundreds and hundreds of saplings a turn, plus he'll be huge. So this guy is incredibly good in this deck, really one of the key cards for my wins. Acidic Slime. I have the alternate artwork version of this in my other deck, so this is just the normal artwork version, but both artworks are amazing. 2/2 for 5 with Death Touch, and he enters the battlefield, destroy target artifact, enchantment or land. So it's nice to get rid of some of the key lands that people have in their deck, also enchantments and artifacts that people have. And also, obviously, he's a 2/2 Death Touch blocker, so not too bad at all. A key card in most green decks. Sigil Captain is a 3/3 for 4. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, if it's a 1/1, put 2 counters on it. So if I make saplings that are 1/1s, they're 3/3s. This actually shuts off a few other combos I have in the deck. If this guy's out, although it makes my sapling stronger for those few turns, it actually stops a few other combos that I have. For example, Mentor of the Meek. When a creature enters the battlefield, if its toughness is 2 or less, I can pay 1 and draw a card. So it stops things like that from happening. Corpsejack Menace. Now this guy is just incredible in any deck with counters. If 1 or more counters will be placed upon a creature you control, put twice that many counters on instead. So if Ghave puts a counter on something, it gets 2 counters. So Microloth, when it devours something, it doubles the counters, and then will double them again when he re-enters the battlefield, etc. So this guy is incredible with counters. It just allows me to make a hell of a lot more counters. Talking of something that makes a hell of a lot of counters, Forgotten Ancient is a 0/3 for 4. Whenever a player plays a spell, you put a counter on it. So, I mean, Getting rid of this guy is incredibly difficult. If someone doesn't have spot removal, getting rid of this guy is ridiculous, because whenever anyone plays a spell, you put a counter on him, and then at the beginning of my upkeep I can move counters from Forgotten Ancient onto anything else. So this guy is incredibly tough to deal with, and also a really big part of my plans. Creekwood Liege, a 4-drop 2/2. Other black creatures I control get +1/+1, and other green creatures get +1/+1. So hits a lot of my creatures, and at the beginning of my upkeep I can put 1/1 green and black worm creature tokens into play, which obviously, because they're green and black, are 3/3s, so every turn I get a free 3/3 creature, so this guy's good. Cryptghast is mainly in here for the second ability it has. It's a 2/2 for 4, extort, but whenever you tap a swamp for mana, add an extra mana to your mana pool. So I have a few swamps in this deck, and basically having double swamp allows me to pump more mana into creatures like Ghave to make his colourless ability be able to do more. So this guy's really, really key. Yavimaya Elder, 2/1 for 3 mana. This guy's in all decks that run green. When he's put into the graveyard from the battlefield, search your library for 2 basic land cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, so it allows you to get 2 lands, but you can also sacrifice him to draw a card. So if by paying 2 after you've paid him, you can play this on turn 5 and do it in one go, or on turn 4 or turn 2 if you can ramp quick enough, or even turn 1 in some cases. You can get 2 lands and draw a card from this guy, so that's really, really good. Fertilid is a way of me being able to get an incredible amount of mana very quickly. He's a 3-drop 0/0, but he enters with 2 counters, and by paying 2 I can remove a counter from him and search a library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. So if I have ways of creating multiple counters onto something and regenerating mana through something, Fertilid just allows me to continuously get land. So this guy's awesome. Okay, so next up we have Spike Feeder, a 0/0 that enters with 2 counters. You can also pay 2 to remove a counter from him and put a 1/1 counter on target creature, and remove a counter from him and gain 2 life. So I can just put a hell of a lot of counters on this guy and gain a hell of a lot of life, or I can move counters around with him as well. So he's really nice. I usually use him for the life technique though, because if I need life, then this guy's my first point of call. Twilight Drover, whenever a token leaves the play, put a 1/1 counter on him, so sacrificing tokens to do anything, this guy gets bigger, and then I can remove counters to make spirits. So if I need flyers, I can sacrifice my saprolings to this guy to then make spirits. Self-explanatory. Mirror Entity is a win condition really in this deck, because I can get a hell of a lot of mana very quickly. I can pay X with Mirror Entity, and all creatures I control become XX and gain all creature types. So I can make all my saplings 25/25s and just smash face with everything. So yeah, this guy's amazing. Mentor the Meek, whenever another creature with power 2 or less comes onto the battlefield in your control, pay 1, draw a card. Really nice. Scavenging Ooze, obviously, exiling cards from graveyards is huge in EDH, getting rid of people's threats from graveyards that they can recur, and then putting counters on them and gaining life. This guy is incredibly good. Primordial Hydra, 0/0 for X and 2 green, enters with X counters. At the beginning of your upkeep, double the counters. If he has 10 or more, he gains trample. Self-explanatory, huge creature that keeps going. Bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Graft 2 on the Aquastrand Spider means he enters with 2 counters, and whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you can move counters from this creature onto them. And you can also pay 1 green to give a target creature with a counter on it reach until the end of the turn. So really nice. If I haven't got Twilight Drover to give me flyers, I can give my saplings or anything with counters reach. Deathspore Thalid, a 1/1 for 2. I can remove spore counters from this guy. He gets spore counters at the beginning of his upkeep. I can remove counters to put saplings into play, but I can also sacrifice saplings to give creatures -1/-1. So removal on a stick with saplings. Protein Hydra, 0/0 for X and green, enters with X counters. If damage would be dealt to him, prevent it and remove that many counters, and whenever a counter is removed, I can put 2 counters on him at the end step. So it's this last ability that makes this really good, because I can remove counters with Ghave. So I remove counters from Protein Hydra, and then at the end of the end step he gets double that many counters. If I have a Corpse Trap Menace, he gets quadruple that many counters, so this guy can get huge very quickly. And now we have a Planeswalker, Garruk Primal Hunter. Garruk is actually really useful because he works a lot with tokens, which obviously I like in this deck. 3 loyalty for 5 mana, +1, put a 3/3 green beast. -3, draw cards equal to the greatest power, which is often in the hundreds, so I can just draw myself out if I wanted to at any point in the game. So usually I'll be drawing 20 cards with this guy when he comes into play. I probably just use him for that sometimes. -6, put 6/6 for each land you control, a 6/6 green worm, so that ability is ridiculous with the amount of land I can create. So that guy's really key. Vraska, the Unseen, one of my favourite planeswalkers of all time. 5-drop for a 5. Until your next turn you can give her Death Touch, basically. -3, she has Vindicate, destroy target non-land permanent, and then -7, put 3 1/1 Black Assassin creature tokens, with whenever it deals combat damage, that player loses the game. So it's a way of, if I get her up to 7 loyalty, it's a way of just instantly killing a player if I can give it Rogue's Passage or something to get it through. And now we move on to our enchantments. Death's Presence. Whenever a creature dies, put X 1/1 counters on target creature. So when creatures are dying, aka when I sacrifice creatures, I then put X power of the creature and X counters. So with Ghave, again, I can sacrifice creatures, which I can Death's Presence the counters onto Ghave. With Corpsejack Menace, they double, etc., etc. As you can see, the combos are beginning to appear. Ascetiism is just a way to protect my creatures. It gives my creatures basically Shroud, and I can also regenerate creatures as well if they do end up having to block. This card is annoying because it makes maths incredibly difficult, hence why the artifact Coat of Arms isn't in here. It was in here and made maths incredibly difficult. Cathar's Crusade, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under my control, I put a counter on each creature I control. So when I individually make saprolings, every creature gets a counter, then I make a new sapling, every other creature plus the sapling I made before get a counter. So I end up having saprolings with sort of spiralling down counters. So if I make 10 saprolings, it'll start from 9, one will have 9 counters, one will have 8 counters, one will have 7, so it makes maths incredibly difficult, but it's really good to make a powerful army. Perilous Forays is a really good card I actually discovered just randomly, and it works really well. I can pay 1 to sacrifice a creature and search for land, so obviously just sacrificing a sapling or a creature that I want to use Death's Presence on, and also get a land out of it, which is really cool. Ooze Flux allows me to remove counters to make XX ooze creatures, which is really cool. So if I have loads of counters that I don't need on something, I can remove them and make oozes. Attrition, I can sacrifice a creature to destroy a non-black creature. So usually a lot of the time in my play group, a lot of the people run black, but I've played against other decks now since I've been in Stafford that don't run black, and this thing just completely destroys everything. However, Aura Shards is incredibly annoying for anyone that plays artifacts or enchantments, because whenever a creature enters the battlefield under my control, which is incredibly easy by just creating saplings out of nowhere, I can destroy artifacts or enchantments. It allows me pretty much to board wipe an artifact player in one fell swoop. So Aura Shards is a really good card. Awakening Zone. At the beginning of my upkeep, I put a 0/1 colourless Eldrazi creature token that has sacrifice this creature, add 1 to your mana pool. This, in combination with Skull Clamp, allows me in one turn to pay 1 mana to draw 2 cards. Because I get a free creature, then I pay 1 mana and put the Skull Clamp onto the creature. So I always have a creature to sacrifice to Skull Clamp. So this is really cool. Necrogenesis, I can pay 2 to exile creature cards from graveyards, really key in EDH, and I get saplings for it. Praetor's Council is a really interesting one. I can pay 8 mana to return every card from my graveyard to my hand. I then exile Praetor's Council, and I have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. So this is incredibly useful if you're in a particularly bad way and you're being completely wiped out all game by somebody. You suddenly do Praetor's Council, and yeah, you're back in the game in a big way. You've got no maximum hand size and all your graveyard back. Boundless Realms allows me to double my lands, search your library for X basic lands, where X is the number of lands you control. So I basically clear out all the lands from my deck in one go. Probably mid-game I will search for the rest of my land, and at that point all I'm drawing is value. So this thing's really good. Hour of Reckoning destroys all non-token creatures, so I destroy everything but my saplings. It's insane, and I can also make it really cheap as well. I can make it only cast 3 white by Convoking, which means you tap a creature, and then it takes 1 off the mana cost. Merciless Eviction, exile all artifacts, all creatures, all enchantments, or all planeswalkers. Deals with everything I want it to deal with. Simple as, plus the artwork's one of my favourite ever in Magic the Gathering. Austere Command, choose 2, destroy all artifacts or destroy all enchantments, or destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 3 or less, or destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 4 or greater. Usually what I'm going to be doing is destroying all artifacts and converted mana cost with 4 or greater, because my saprolings don't have a converted mana cost. They're tokens, so Austere Command's a really good way to do that. Hex, mass creature removal, but selected, so destroy 6 target creatures for 6 mana. It's basically a 1 mana Hero's Downfall, not Hero's Downfall, like a 1 mana destroy target creature spell, murder. It's just 1 mana murders, 6 of them. It's just 6 murders in a card. Obsidat's Aid, foil, really nice in foil. I've got a few foil cards, I didn't actually explain the ones that are foil, but this one's cool. Return target permanent from graveyard to the battlefield, so anything I want I can get back. Beacon and Rest, put a target artifact or creature card from any graveyard onto the battlefield into your control, and then this shuffles back into my library. So this allows me to get anything I want from anyone's graveyard, including my own. Harmonise, draw 3 cards. Amazing to see a draw spell in green, so this is really good. Cultivate allows me to fix lands. Black Sun Zenith puts my -1/-1 counters on each creature, and then it shuffles into my library, so X counters on each creature. Revoke Existence, exile target artifact or enchantment. Pretty useful if someone's got something annoying that they'll keep recurring, so you exile it instead. Regrowth, I hate white borders on cards, but the Regrowth's a good card. Bring any card from your graveyard to your hand, just any card you like, it's really nice. We have Ready and Willing. Creatures you control are either indestructible this turn and untap each creature, so that's 3 mana for Ready and 3 mana for Willing, gives them all Death Touch and Lifelink, so I can give all my saplings Death Touch, Lifelink and indestructible. Yeah, it's an incredible way to blow someone out. So let's move on to Mortify. Destroy target creature or enchantment. Putrefy, artifact or creature, can't be regenerated. Sundering Growth, destroy artifact or enchantment, then populate, allows me to populate a sapling token or a worm, whatever's out. Tribute to the Wild, each opponent sacrifices an artifact or enchantment, and that is, I believe, it for the instants and sorceries. Okay guys, so now we're looking at artifacts, and we start off with Contagion Engine from Scars of Mirrodin. 6 mana for an engine that puts a 1/1 counter on each, -1/-1 counter on each creature target player controls. Now this is really good if someone's really annoying you. Now it's in the politics game, of course, EDH. People are going to be annoying you, people are going to be after you, and if someone is, Contagion Engine is a great way to stop them from doing such things. Put a -1/-1 counter on each creature a player controls, and at that point their team is going to start suffering, because by paying 4 mana and tapping Contagion Engine you can proliferate, then proliferate again. So you choose any number of permanents that have counters on them. Now this includes Planeswalkers, and +1/+1 counters, -1/-1 counters. Anything that says counters, this thing can give another counter of that kind already there. And I love the sentence here, because it says you choose any number of permanents, blah 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 blah. Each another counter of the kind already there, full stop, and then it just says, then do it again. Because that's what this does, it proliferates twice, so you can give their creatures -1/-1 counters till the cows come home, and you can make your +1/+1 counters and Planeswalkers more deadly. You can also choose to proliferate other people's counters, so keep that in mind if you're playing the politics game. Gilded Lotus from the Vault Realms 20, lovely foiling on this one. So proud to have that set. 5 mana to add 3 mana of any one colour to your mana pool. This was a recent entry into this deck, just simply for the fact it's amazing mana fixing and ramping, incredibly good. Talking of mana fixing, Chromatic Lantern, 3 mana for to give any lands you control tap to add 1 colour of mana to your mana pool plus. Chromatic Lantern does that as well, so this is really good mana fixing. Lightning Greaves will be in every EDH deck you will ever see. It's just incredible protection. 2 mana and equip for 0 to give a creature haste and shroud. Contagion Class puts a -1 on a creature and also has to proliferate. It's mainly there for the proliferation. Orzhov Signet, pay 1 and tap to add white and black. Golgari Signet, tap to add black and green. Selesnya the same, pay 1 and tap for green and white, so again this is all mana fixing. Skull Clamp gives a creature +1/-1 for an equip cost of 1, and when the creature's put into the graveyard, draw 2 cards. So think about all those saplings I have that have 1 toughness. This kills them and I draw 2 cards. For 1 mana I can draw 2 cards. This thing's incredible, gets me through my deck so much. It's a degenerate combo, and one that will just keep going and keep doing it until I get what the cards that I need. Everyone hates me when I play this card, but it's really good. Soul Ring, awesome artwork. Tap 1 mana to add 2 mana to your mana pool. Lands, we have Overgrown Tomb. So it's a shock land. Give only township 1 mana to your pool. I can pay 4 to put a 1/1 counter on every creature I control. Rogue's Passage, 1 mana and taps for 4. Target creature is unblockable this turn, so really good with anything you want to get through for damage. Grim Backwards. Add 1 to your mana pool and you can pay 4 mana to a black and a green to sacrifice a creature and draw a card. It's not brilliant, but I mean, if you need a card desperately, get rid of the saplings for that. Vault of the Archangel, amazing. Creatures you control gain Death Touch and Lifelink till the end of turn. Imagine this with all my saplings. It's the same with Ready and Willing. Gives them all Death Touch and Lifelink. And really halts attacks and stops people from attacking you if you've got this out. But attacks you have will be incredibly deadly. Command Tower taps for any colour in your commander's colour identity. So any colour that Ghave casts for. Temple of the False God. 2 colour to your mana pool, and activate this ability only if you control 5 or more lands, so it's a really nice ramping technique. Orzhov Basilica, it's a bounce land, you bounce a land to your hand and you add white and black. Same with Selesnya for green and white, and Golgari for black and green. Vivid Grove taps for green, but you can also remove a charge counter from it, so another counter you can proliferate, and add 1 colour of any colour, so the same with Vivid Marsh as well. And then we have our normal lands. We have forests, as you can see there, those are just forests, and then we have swamps and plains. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. The Ghave deck is incredible, it really is. There he is. This deck is an awesome EDH deck. If you guys want the deck list for this, if you want to make it yourself, it's a fairly cheap deck. There are some expensive cards, but this is one of the pre-made decks that I've then edited, heavily edited, I may add, just to make it incredibly strong. It was strong in the first place, now it's just ridiculous. In one-on-one, this will win pretty much every game. It's too quick for any other decks I know out there. A one-on-one, this will just destroy everything. And in group games, it's got really interesting politics with the giving things +1/+1 counters, proliferating other people's counters, and also it's just deadly on its own anyway. So I hope you enjoyed that EDH deck rundown. I hope you were interested in some of the combos that you can create from this deck, and I will hope to bring you more EDH decks soon. If you want to see this deck in a match, do let me know, and I'll probably play it against my Gruul EDH deck, which is another very quick, fast, big creature deck. Not counters, just huge, mother-loving creatures. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Have a great day wherever you are.